Ambassador Vorex of the Thelicosan Dominion collapsed mid-sentence, his three primary tentacles convulsing as the ceremonial chalice clattered to the polished floor of the grand conclave chamber. The iridescent liquid moments before presented as a gesture of reconciliation between ancient enemies splattered across the marble-like surface, its droplets sizzling ominously. The assembled dignitaries from 17 galactic species recoiled in practiced diplomatic horror. The MES delegation extended their atmospheric shields. The silicon-based Katid crystallized their outer membranes. The gaseous Falori contracted into defensive spheres, their translucent bodies flashing warning colors. "Assassination!" shrieked First Minister Zextora of the Felbian Concordat, her plumage flaring in distress patterns. The chalice was poisoned. Chaos erupted as security drones swarmed the chamber. Medical specialists from 3 different environmental quadrants rushed to the fallen ambassador, their diagnostic instruments humming urgently. The Thelicosan's color-shifting epidermis had settled into the gray-violet hue universally recognized as critical physiological distress among oxygen-breathing species. "The toxin is alfaxan-erythian-based," announced the chief medical officer, a quantaran with 14 sensory stalks. "Engineered to bypass standard diplomatic protections, there is no known antidote for non-silicon lifeforms." As pandemonium intensified, with accusations flying between ancient rivals faster than the translation matrices could process, Lieutenant Commander Mackenzie Frost of the United Earth Diplomatic Corps calmly walked to the center of the chamber. The human, one of only 3 attending this historic gathering, knelt beside the fallen Thelicosan, picked up the chalice, and before anyone could intervene, drained its remaining contents in a single swallow. The chamber fell instantly silent. Frost set down the empty vessel with a deliberate clink and smiled pleasantly at the assembled dignitaries. "Excellent vintage. A bit heavy on the benzene undertones for my taste, but the selenium finish is quite remarkable." First Minister Zextora's translation implant apparently malfunctioned, as she could only produce a series of untranslatable squawks. "Now then," Frost continued, straightening the precisely tailored uniform that distinguished Earth's representatives from their more elaborately adorned galactic counterparts, "perhaps we can dispense with the accusations and focus on getting Ambassador Vorex proper medical attention, and then we really should resume these negotiations. I believe we were just getting to the interesting part about multi-phasic travel rights through the Cygnus arm." As medical personnel cautiously resumed their efforts, the Quantaran chief leaned toward Frost, sensory stalks trembling in confusion. "Human," he whispered, "you should be dead. That toxin dissolves oxygen transport mechanisms in carbon-based life forms." Frost's smile never wavered. "Well then, it's fortunate I took my antacids this morning, isn't it?" From the observation gallery, senior xenobiologist Dr. Elara Quintain of the Galactic Science Academy watched the human with narrowed eyes. After 3 centuries studying interspecies biochemistry, she recognized the impossible when she saw it. And what she'd just witnessed wasn't merely improbable, it should have been metabolically impossible. Humanity's admission to the Galactic Alliance had been controversial from the outset. When first contact occurred 78 standard cycles earlier, humans lacked the typical prerequisites for invitation. They possessed rudimentary faster-than-light travel, but no unified planetary government, maintained alarming stockpiles of nuclear weapons, and exhibited disturbing patterns of internal conflict. Yet several influential Alliance members had championed Earth's case, most notably the archivists of Deneb, who cited humanity's unique evolutionary path and unprecedented adaptive capacity as valuable additions to galactic diversity. The skeptics had pointed to humanity's troubled historical record. The advocates countered with their remarkable artistic output. The pragmatists noted Earth's unusual concentration of rare, heavy elements. The security-minded factions highlighted humanity's disconcerting proficiency for weaponizing seemingly benign technologies. In the end, the Alliance had extended a provisional membership, the only such arrangement in its 12,000-cycle history. Humans could participate in galactic affairs, but with restrictions on technology transfers, colonial expansion, and military deployments. For 7 decades, Earth had operated within these constraints, gradually earning greater privileges through diplomatic persistence and occasional displays of their species' peculiarities. The current negotiations at the Grand Conclave represented humanity's most significant opportunity yet, a proposed revision to the Treaty of Proxima that would remove the last major restrictions on human activities within Alliance space. Not everyone was pleased with this prospect. The Thelicosan Dominion had opposed human membership from the beginning, citing evolutionary incompatibility and disruptive potential. The Felbian Concordat had initially supported Earth, but gradually shifted position as humans demonstrated alarming aptitudes in fields previously dominated by Felbian specialists. Tensions between these ancient rivals had already been high when the Grand Conclave convened. The ceremonial chalice, traditionally used to open proceedings with a gesture of shared consumption, had been Vorex's own suggestion, a symbol of trust between suspicious parties. Now that chalice had nearly triggered an interstellar diplomatic crisis, and a human who should be dead was instead calmly directing medical personnel while checking schedule adjustments on a wrist-mount holodisplay. In the Grand Conclave's 2 million cycle history, this was certainly a first. "I demand an explanation." First Minister Zextora had recovered her composure and her translation functions as the emergency session reconvened 3 hours later. "How does this human survive a toxin that has felled an ambassador with 16 redundant organ systems?" Lieutenant Commander Frost, still showing no signs of distress, sat at the human delegation's table looking mildly amused. Beside her, Admiral Wei Zhang of the United Earth Space Command maintained a carefully neutral expression, while Dr. Imani Okafor, Earth's chief xenobiologist, frantically took notes on her datapad. The session moderator, a Chronosian elder whose species' methane-based biochemistry made them conveniently neutral in oxygen-breather conflicts, gestured for silence. "The human representatives have agreed to address this question," the elder announced, their temporal translation field causing their words to arrive slightly before they were spoken, another oddity that had long since ceased to disturb most Alliance members. "Ambassador Frost, you may proceed." "Lieutenant Commander, actually," Frost corrected with a hint of a smile, "and I'm happy to explain, though I fear the answer may be disappointingly simple." The chamber's environmental systems adjusted automatically as hundreds of breathing apparatuses, sensory organs, and recording devices focused on the human. "Earth is what xenobiologists classify as a toxic crucible world," Frost began. "Our evolutionary history included periods of significant atmospheric poison, from oxygen, initially toxic to early life, to various volcanic emissions, biological compounds, and later, our own industrial pollutants. Humans evolved in an environment that was actively trying to poison us for millions of years." "Oops," Dr. Okafor projected, supporting data showing Earth's tumultuous atmospheric history alongside human biochemical adaptations. "Additionally," Frost continued, "humans are what you might call dietary adventurers. Many substances deadly to other species are regular parts of our consumption. Caffeine is a potent insecticide. Capsaicin is a defensive neurotoxin. Ethanol is a cellular poison. We not only tolerate these, we seek them out for pleasure." From her observation post, Dr. Ilara Quintain leaned forward with intense interest. The human wasn't exaggerating. A quick cross-rexum confirmed that standard human biochemistry included detoxification pathways unheard of in other oxygen-breathing species. "As for the specific compound in the chalice," Frost concluded, alphaxanorithion-based toxins primarily target trihelix protein structures, common in most Alliance species. Humans evolved with double helix proteins in a biochemical backwater of the galaxy. The poison simply doesn't have the right molecular keys for our particular locks." A ripple of untranslatable exclamations spread through the chamber as the implications became clear. "You're suggesting," First Minister Zextora said slowly, "that this assassination attempt failed due to simple evolutionary chance?" "Not entirely," Frost replied. "Earth's history as a death world, as some Alliance members have so charmingly classified it, created unusually robust detoxification systems in humans. What would kill most species might give us a mild stomachache. In this specific case, I experienced no effects whatsoever. The Quantaran medical chief, who had joined the session, extended a sensory stalk in disagreement. Our preliminary analysis suggests the human's liver, a remarkable filtration organ, processed the toxin through a pathway we've never documented before. It wasn't just immunity, it was active neutralization. Before further discussion could proceed, the chamber's security system chimed with an urgent notification. The Chronosian elder activated the central display, showing a security team escorting a struggling Felbian diplomatic aide. "We have identified the source of the contamination," the security chief announced. This individual was recorded tampering with the ceremonial chalice prior to the presentation. All eyes turned to First Minister's Extora, whose plumage contracted in what most species recognized as the Felbian equivalent of horrified embarrassment. The examination room in the conclave's medical wing was designed to accommodate patients of widely varying biological requirements. Currently configured for human physiology, it still retained an alien feel with its non-Euclidean angles and bioresponsive surfaces. Lieutenant Commander Frost sat patiently on an examination platform as Dr. Ilara Quintain directed a team of specialized xenobiologists through a battery of tests. Admiral Zhang stood nearby, his expression betraying growing impatience. "Is this really necessary, Commander?" he asked quietly. "We should be in the negotiation chamber using this incident to our advantage." Frost smiled. "That's precisely what we're doing, Admiral. Dr. Okafor is representing our interests admirably, while I provide our new friends with a fascinating research opportunity." Dr. Quintain approached, her 8-limbed locomotion gliding smoothly across the chamber floor. The Acheronian scientist's compound eyes reflected the holographic displays of Frost's internal biochemistry floating throughout the room. "Remarkable," she said. "Truly remarkable. In 3 centuries of xenobiological research, I've never encountered detoxification pathways with this efficiency. Your species evolved them naturally?" "Through necessity," Frost replied. "Earth's history is filled with evolutionary arms races between predator and prey, host and parasite, consumer and consumed. We develop robust systems for handling environmental toxins, and then enhance them through our own cultural practices." "Cultural practices?" Quintain's antennae twitched with curiosity. "Humans deliberately consume mild poisons for pleasure," Frost explained. "Alcohol, caffeine, capsaicin, theobromine, all evolved as defensive compounds in other species that we incorporated into our diets. Some anthropologists believe we developed our extraordinary detoxification systems through millennia of recreational poison consumption." Admiral Zhang cleared his throat. "Commander, perhaps we shouldn't emphasize humanity's toxic proclivities when we're trying to remove restrictions on our movement through Alliance space." "On the contrary, Admiral," Dr. Quintain interjected, compound eyes flashing with academic excitement. "This information could revolutionize xenomedicine throughout the Alliance. Human biochemistry contains detoxification mechanisms that could save countless lives." She manipulated the holographic display, highlighting a particular enzyme cascade in Frost's liver. This pathway alone could neutralize 7 of the 12 most common toxic agents used in interstellar conflicts. If we could synthesize these enzymes, or better yet, introduce genetic modifications to incorporate these pathways into other species, that would be a significant technological contribution, Frost observed casually. The kind that might demonstrate humanity's value as full Alliance members, perhaps? Grande's antennae stiffened, the Acheronian equivalent of a knowing smile. "Indeed, I believe the Science Council would find such contributions compelling." As the examination continued, Frost's communicator chimed with an incoming message from Dr. Okafor. "Felbian delegation in disarray. Thelicosan's calling for sanctions. Alliance Security Council requesting human expertise on poison detection systems. Negotiations paused pending your return. Also, you're trending on the Alliance Information Network. They're calling you the Poison Drinker." Frost showed the message to Admiral Zhang, whose stern expression finally cracked into a smile. "Well, Commander," he said quietly, "it appears your unorthodox diplomatic approach has yielded results. Though I should note that drinking unknown alien substances is expressly forbidden by United Earth diplomatic protocols." "Technically, sir," Frost replied with a grin, "I didn't drink an unknown substance. Our sensors identified it as alphaxionorian-based the moment it was poured. I knew exactly what I was consuming." "And the theatrical flair?" "Also protocol, Admiral. Section 12, paragraph 3. In situations where demonstrating unique human capabilities may yield diplomatic advantage, personnel are authorized to employ calculated displays of these capabilities." Zhang shook his head. "I don't recall that section." "It's new," Frost admitted. "I wrote it this morning." When Lieutenant Commander Mackenzie Frost returned to the Grand Conclave chamber, the atmosphere had transformed dramatically. Where humans had previously been viewed with cautious tolerance at best, the assembled dignitaries now regarded the approaching Terran with expressions ranging from scientific fascination to wary respect. The Chronosian elder called the session to order, temporal distortion field causing the sound to echo slightly before it was produced. "This conclave now addresses the matter of the attempted assassination of Ambassador Vorix through poisoned ceremonial libation," the elder announced. "The Felbian aide has confessed to acting under direction from extremist elements within the Concordat's diplomatic corps, though First Minister Zextora maintains she had no knowledge of the plot. The Felbian delegation's seats remain conspicuously empty. Ambassador Vorix is expected to make a full recovery, thanks to treatment protocols developed from analysis of the human immune response," the elder continued. "The Thelicosan Dominion has formally withdrawn their objections to full human membership in the Alliance in recognition of Lieutenant Commander Frost's actions." A ripple of surprised vocalizations spread through the chamber. The Thelicosan had been humanity's most consistent opponent since first contact. Ambassador Vorix himself, still weakened but insistent on attending, extended a color-shifting tentacle in the formal gesture of gratitude. "The Dominion acknowledges its error in judgment regarding human integration. A species that would risk death to taste poison meant for a historical adversary demonstrates principles compatible with Alliance ideals." Frost bowed in the Thelicosan manner. "No risk was involved, Ambassador, but the sentiment is appreciated." Dr. Ilara Quintain took the central podium, her exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber lights. "The Science Council requests expedited approval for a collaborative research initiative with Earth's xenobiological institutes. Human detoxification biochemistry represents a significant medical advancement opportunity." One by one, delegations that had previously opposed or remained neutral on human membership shifted positions. The kitted Crystalline Collective offered technology exchange in environmental adaptation. The Mrez Confederacy proposed joint exploration ventures. Even the notoriously isolationist Falori expressed interest in human biochemical consultation. Admiral Zhang, observing from the human delegation's table, leaned toward Dr. Okafor. "Is this actually happening? 7 decades of careful negotiation and suddenly everyone wants to be friends because Frost has an impressive liver?" "You're witnessing xenopolitics in its purest form," Okafor replied without looking up from her notes. "Practical advantage trumps historical prejudice. Humanity just demonstrated a capability no other species possesses, one with immediate applications for every member of the Alliance." As the proposals and offers continued, First Minister Zextora finally returned to the chamber, her plumage flattened in the Falbian display of contrition. "The Concordat extends formal apologies for the actions of our representatives," she announced, her normally melodious voice subdued. "We withdraw all objections to human advancement within the Alliance structure and offer reparations in the form of exclusive mining rights to the Tau Ceti peripheral asteroids." Frost, who had been quietly observing the proceedings, finally rose to address the chamber. "The United Earth government appreciates the Alliance's reconsideration of our status," she began, her voice carrying easily through the vast space. "However, we are not interested in special treatment based on a single biological quirk." A confused murmur spread through the assembled dignitaries. What humanity seeks is equal treatment as full Alliance members, no more, no less, Frost continued. We bring many qualities to this community, our adaptability, creativity, resilience, and yes, our peculiar biochemistry. But we wish to earn our place through contribution, not capitalize on a moment of crisis. She gestured toward Ambassador Vorex. The Thelicosan ambassador would have done the same for any delegate in danger. That is the standard to which we all should aspire. The chamber fell silent as translation systems conveyed her words to each species in their native communication forms. Finally, the Chronosian elder spoke. The human demonstrates wisdom alongside immunity. This conclave shall proceed with the original purpose, consideration of Earth's petition for full Alliance membership, with new perspective on their species' qualities. Admiral Zhang gave Frost an approving nod as she returned to her seat. Well played, Commander. Refusing their offers makes them want to give us more. That wasn't a diplomatic tactic, sir, Frost replied quietly. We genuinely don't want to build our galactic relationships on being living poison detectors. Nevertheless, Dr. Okafor interjected, 17 delegations have already requested private meetings, and the Science Council is drafting research grants. Sometimes the most effective diplomacy happens by accident. As the formal proceedings resumed, Dr. Elara Quintain discreetly transmitted new findings to Frost's data terminal. Analysis complete. Human liver enzymes can neutralize 82% of known xenotoxins. Potential applications revolutionary. Requesting permission to publish joint research paper. Suggested title, The Species That Drinks Poison, Human Detoxification Pathways and Their Galactic Applications. One standard cycle later, the Grand Conclave concluded with the formal ratification of the Treaty of Proxima Revised. Humanity received full Alliance membership with all associated rights and responsibilities. The fastest transition from provisional to full status in Alliance history. Lieutenant Commander Mackenzie Frost, now appointed as Earth's first permanent ambassador to the Alliance Council, stood in the observation lounge overlooking the vast space dock where vessels from hundreds of worlds arrived and departed in carefully choreographed patterns. Ambassador Vorex glided up beside her, his tentacles now displaying the vibrant azure patterns of robust health. The human who drinks poison contemplates the stars, he observed, in the formal Thelicosan poetic tradition. Just thinking about unexpected outcomes, Frost replied. A year ago, our species were suspicious adversaries. Now we're preparing joint research expeditions. The Thelicosan philosophers teach that wisdom often comes disguised as poison, Vorex said. My people spent generations viewing humans as a toxic influence on galactic affairs. Now we understand that the toxin itself can be the cure. Poetic, but I hope we're valued for more than our livers, Frost said with a smile. Already you are. Vorex's skin rippled with amusement patterns. The Alliance Education Council has received 17,000 applications from member worlds for the cultural exchange program with Earth. Apparently, the species that evolved drinking poison for pleasure is considered fascinatingly unpredictable. Before Frost could respond, her communicator chimed with an urgent message from Admiral Zhang. Ambassador, we have a situation in the diplomatic reception. The Katid representative is challenging representatives from 3 worlds to a drinking contest with fermented Jovian cloud extract. They're insisting you judge the competition. Frost sighed. It seems my reputation precedes me. Your people have an expression, Vorex said, skin flickering with what humans had learned was Thelicosan laughter. Be careful what you wish for. We have another one too, Frost replied as she turned toward the reception hall. Bottoms up. As she departed, Dr. Elara Quintain entered with a datapad, displaying the latest research results. Ambassador Frost, we've made a breakthrough with the enzyme synthesis. Early tests show we can adapt human detoxification pathways for 83% of oxygen-breathing Alliance species. Vorex extended a tentacle toward the departing human, and thus the poison becomes the antidote. Perhaps that should be the title of your research paper, Doctor. In the millennia that followed, Xenohistorians would identify the poison chalice incident as the pivotal moment when humanity secured its place in galactic civilization. Schools throughout Alliance space taught the story of the human who drank poison and changed interstellar politics forever. What these accounts often omitted, and what Ambassador Frost never bothered to correct, was that the famous immunity had nothing to do with humanity's unique evolutionary path or remarkable biochemistry. Lieutenant Commander Mackenzie Frost had simply been vaccinated against alphaxanorian compounds, along with 16 other common assassination toxins, as standard procedure for all high-ranking Earth diplomats, following 3 previous attempts on human representatives. Some diplomatic advantages Frost believed were best left unexplained. The Alliance would eventually discover this particular secret, but by then, humanity had established itself as valuable members for entirely different reasons: their adaptability, creativity, and remarkable talent for turning evolutionary quirks into galaxy-changing innovations. And if the occasional ambassador had to drink strange concoctions at diplomatic functions to maintain the mystique, well, that was simply part of the job description. 10 standard cycles after the poison chalice incident, the Galactic Museum of Diplomatic History unveiled a new exhibit, The Poison Drinkers, Earth's Biochemical Diplomacy. The centerpiece was the preserved ceremonial chalice, alongside a detailed holographic display of human detoxification pathways. Ambassador Frost, attending the opening ceremony with considerably more grey in her hair and another diplomatic rank on her uniform, stood before the display with mixed emotions. "They've made us sound like walking biohazards," she murmured to Dr. Okafor, now Earth science liaison to the Alliance. "You'd think humans spent their free time gargling with nerve agents." "Technically incorrect, but strategically useful," replied Okafor, with the pragmatism that had advanced her career. "The poison drinker mystique has facilitated 17 medical breakthroughs and secured us preferential trading status with the Acheronian Syndicate." A group of young xenobiology students, representing 12 different species, approached cautiously, recording devices at the ready. Ambassador Frost ventured a young Thelicosan, skin flashing with excitement patterns. "Is it true humans consume ethanol as a social ritual despite its cytotoxic effects?" Frost smiled diplomatically. "We call it happy hour, and yes, it's a cherished tradition." The students' recording appendages whirred frantically. "And capsaicin?" asked a Ketid youth, crystalline structure vibrating with curiosity. "Our professor said humans deliberately seek foods containing this neurotoxin for pleasure." "The spicier the better," Frost confirmed. "There's a restaurant in New Delhi that requires you to sign a medical waiver before trying their vindaloo." The students exchanged untranslatable exclamations of shock and admiration. As the group moved on, Admiral Zhang, now sporting an ambassadorial insignia of his own, approached with a data crystal. "The latest from Earth Central," he said quietly. "The Xenomedicine Initiative has successfully adapted human cytochrome pathways for fluoride biochemistry. Their respiratory syndrome cure should be ready for distribution next cycle." Frost nodded with satisfaction. What had begun as diplomatic theater had evolved into one of humanity's most significant contributions to galactic welfare. The enzymes and metabolic pathways that allowed humans to consume recreational toxins were now saving millions of lives throughout Alliance space. "There's more," Zhang continued. "Intelligence reports the Radiant Harmony Collective is considering formal diplomatic contact." Frost nearly dropped her commemorative datapad. "The Collective? They've refused communication with the Alliance for 15,000 cycles. Apparently, they've been monitoring our xenomedicine programs. Their primary biochemistry has similarities to Earth mammals, and they're suffering from an environmental toxin crisis on their homeworld. So, they're approaching us not because we're members of the Alliance, but because we're walking detoxification systems," Frost concluded. "I'm not sure whether to be flattered or offended." "Be practical," Zhang suggested. "This could be the diplomatic breakthrough of the millennium." As they discussed the implications, Dr. Ilara Quintain joined them, her exoskeleton now bearing the prestigious markings of Science Council leadership. "Ambassador Frost," she greeted, antennae twitching with excitement. The Council has approved the Terran Biochemical Academy proposal. Construction begins next cycle on Luna. The first Alliance institution headquartered in the Sol system, Frost noted with pride. A fitting location for the study of the species that changed galactic medicine by drinking poison, Quintain replied. Though I've always wondered. She leaned closer, voice dropping to a near whisper. Was it truly evolutionary adaptation, or were you prepared specifically for alphaxerethian compounds? Frost's diplomatic mask never slipped. A fascinating question for xenobiologists to debate for generations to come. Quintain's compound eyes flickered with what humans had learned was Acheronian amusement. Some mysteries enhance rather than diminish scientific progress. Your secret, if there is one, is safe. As the ceremony continued, Frost reflected on how a single moment of calculated risk had transformed humanity's place in the cosmos. From suspicious provisional members to valued contributors, humans had leveraged their peculiar evolutionary history into unprecedented diplomatic advantage. The next day's headline on the Alliance Information Network captured it perfectly. Poison Chalice Anniversary celebrates humanity's toxic gift to the galaxy. Ambassador Mackenzie Frost saved a copy for posterity. Some diplomatic victories deserved to be remembered, even if they weren't quite as legendary as the stories claimed.